Wherefore, Series 3, Episode 9. Marjorie Peaseblossom is having a very hard time of it. She is innocently driving to Cheltenham, just for a change of scenery, when she has the most awful feeling that Painswick might be real. So bad is this experience that she has to pull in on the side of the road to take some rescue remedy. "Painswick is not a real place. It's not one of the 5 valleys," she says out loud, trying to steady herself. With her guard down, Amagin pipes up almost immediately. She is almost relieved, because this is at least something to counter the existential Painswick crisis that has inexplicably hit her. You know, there are some people who try to claim Ruscombe is one of the 5 valleys. Preposterous! It's a mere side valley. "I never thought it was a valley," Marjorie says out loud. She makes the mistake of opening her eyes for a moment. It looks like she has driven into the entrance of a small, affluent-looking estate. That can't be right, because Painswick definitely isn't real. She has a sudden terrible flashback of trying to buy a house in Painswick once. Surely that was a dream? Her dreams can be incredibly realistic. And yet she has the unsettling feeling that somehow it happened and that once upon a time she believed in Painswick. She feels a bit sick. No one in their right mind would count Charfield as a valley either, but there's always some idiot trying to do that. Clearly it should be considered part of the Frome Valley, and as for Slad, don't get me started on Slad. Marjorie closes her eyes again and says, "Go on. What about Slad?" "Well, it's not a proper valley either. It's a narrative trope invented by Laurie Lee." "People see it through nostalgia-tinted glasses," Marjorie agrees. "They don't see the real place at all. Especially not if they've parked their massive 4x4 on the edge of the road to go to the pub." "Truth," says Amagin. "What do you think about Painswick?" Marjorie asks cautiously. "Swingers, mostly," Amagin replies. "Infamous for them." "So it's a real place," Marjorie ventures, "in your experience?" "Oh, yes," says Amagin, and there's something in his tone that disclines Marjorie from asking about anything too specific. "Nailsworth has always been a bit of a conundrum," Amagin says, warming to his theme. "Where does it start? At what point can you say you've crossed into Avening, or Dudbridge, or Horsley, for that matter?" "I take your point," says Marjorie. "I ended up in Horsley quite by accident once, and had no idea I was there." "Do you count Worcester as one of the 5 valleys?" Amagin asks. "I think most people don't," Marjorie says, "which seems unfair, because it is an excellent valley." "Toadsmore," Amagin says. "When did you last even see Toadsmore?" "Not sure I ever have," Marjorie admits. "Exactly," says Amagin. "And if you're going to count Ruscombe as a valley, which I don't, how can you possibly justify not also counting the Spoonbed?" "The what?" Marjorie inquires. "Popular camping spot for giants," Amagin says. "Lots of pretty out-of-the-way fields." She can half hear where his thoughts are going, and half remembers time spent in fields with this man, back when he was an actual man and not just a weird voice in her head. They did have some good times, briefly. "Why's Painswick got you so rattled anyway?" He sounds like he cares. He used to be good at that too, she remembers. It has never meant that he actually cares. "It's not real," she says. "I'm sure it isn't real." "You're parked in it," Amagin says, clearly amused. Marjorie opens her eyes again and wishes she hadn't, and squeezes them shut. How is she going to get out of this situation if she can't open her eyes to drive? "You could let me have a look. You could let me take over. I could drive," Amagin says. Marjorie has the feeling that if she relinquishes her body to Imogen, he will not in fact give it back without a massive fight. She wonders if there is any other way out of this mess. By the feel of it, this whole place is pretty messed up with magic, he says. Sloppy work. Set up carefully enough, but no longer being properly maintained, I rather think. I wouldn't know about that, says Marjorie. I think someone has gone to some effort to persuade people that Painswick isn't real. But for whatever reason, they've given up on that. Not all wizards bother to tidy up after themselves. He laughs, inside her head, which feels peculiar. I certainly don't if I can help it. Marjorie is sufficiently involved with the life of Stroud to know that the town, and perhaps the district, are run by 7 wizards. It should be possible to contact them and ask about this. It isn't one of the 7, Imogen says, preempting her next question. There are always a lot more than 7, of course, but most of them never find out what they are, so don't really invest in their own potential. What do we do? Marjorie asks. Would you like me to alter your mind so that you can cope with Painswick as a concept, or would you like me to drive? I think sitting here with our eyes shut until we piss ourselves probably isn't the dignified solution we're looking for. Faced with the pressing needs of an ageing bladder and a desperate longing for tea, they are united by common aims, at least for now. Is Painswick really real? Marjorie asks. Always was, says Imogen. Well, I feel less confused if I know it was always real, Marjorie asks. I expect so. She takes a deep breath. Painswick is real. It has always been real. She is the victim of a magical hoax or jest of some sort. Painswick is real. Marjorie opens her eyes. Painswick certainly looks real. She still feels a bit sick, but she would rather accept that and get home than let Imogen mess about with her mind or her car. For a while there, it felt like they were on the same side, but she has no doubt he is exactly the sort of person to exploit that feeling for his own benefit. Even so, it does feel like cooperation might be possible after all. As she doesn't seem able to get rid of him, and she is about as tired of playing death metal to shut him up as he is, perhaps a collaborative way forward would be worth exploring.